Smith, and I am the project manager here at WBC. And along with Neon, we are excited that you all are joining us today for our April's Luncheon on grant writing. Before we get started in on our session today, we have a few quick announcements from both WBC and Neon. In regards to WBC, we have tons that is happening. We are in partnership currently with Better Futures for our ambassador program. They are on West Broadway 3 to 4 days a week from 8 to noon. So if you see them out there, make sure that you say something to them. They are earmarking our expansion or our pilot program for our ambassador program in connecting our community more with businesses and with our overall programming. So they're really going to help us inform our programming. So you'll see them on the streets cleaning, engaging, and we are going to build in a safety element in there as well. So make sure that if you see them purple vests, I see one on here right now. So if you see those purple vests out there, make sure that you introduce yourself, say something to our ambassadors. That's a great partnership that we have with them. Also, we have a few grant opportunities that we are going to be launching very, very soon, I believe next week. And this is from our Northside campaign. These grants will help businesses with development opportunities on West Broadway, facade and interior improvements, as well as general business expenses. So make sure that you check out our social media and our website for these opportunities as they become available. So make sure you check in that frequently. Also keep your eyes out for our placemaking events, which are our Black Business Week. That's in June. We have our Flow Festival in July, and we have open Streets in September. So again, be sure to be looking out for those opportunities and those updates. And lastly here, we are starting our business technical assistance. So we are relaunching that in June. So again, so be sure to be looking out for those opportunities if you are interested in being a part of those business cohort, if you are new business or existing business, so those opportunities will be available to you. So those are some announcements that I have from WBC. I'm going to turn it over to Terry from Neon with some updates that he may have, and then we're going to begin in on our session on grant writing.
Well, thanks a lot, Jamar. Appreciate it. Terry Austin, the Community Engagement Manager here at Neon. Just really quick, if anyone's thinking about business, any relatives, community members, residents, if you're thinking about business, you need to stop and meet with some of our business development folks here at Neon. We have a lot of great resources from spaces. We're doing some workshops as well. But one of the biggest projects that we're working on is our food incubator project that will be coming soon. So we're working on that. But one of the things I really want to share with the community is that the Metro Blue Line extension has made their recommendation to actually extend the Blue Line from the Target Field station along West Broadway Avenue in Minneapolis. And that will come along County Road 81 into Crystal, into Robbinsdale, and then along to West Broadway Avenue into Brooklyn Park. So this is going to be a major project. They did have two recommendation, West Broadway or Laurie. They have chosen to go with the West Broadway proposal. So there's going to be some upcoming meetings that will be essential for your feedback. Those meetings will take place, in-person meetings will take place on Tuesday, April 26th from 5 to 7 at the Episcopal Church in Minnesota, the gathering space right next to Sammy's on West Broadway. There's a meeting space there that they'll be having some conversations and taking some feedback from the community. Again, that's going to be on Tuesday, April 26th from 5 to 7. The next one will take place on Wednesday, April 27th, 5 to 7 at the Elam Lutheran Church in Robbinsdale, okay? That's 3978 West Broadway Avenue in their gym on Wednesday. And then they have one that's on May 3rd from 5 to 7 in Brooklyn Park. And on Thursday, also May 5th from 5 to 7 at the Crystal Community Center. All this information, again, will be posted on the bluelineextension.org. If you have any questions as well, you can call up to Neon. Our direct number is 612-302-1505. You can ask for myself, or the person at the desk will also be able to give you information as well. And Jamar, those are all the quick updates that I have. I want everyone to have a wonderful week, and I'm looking forward to this great conversation.
Awesome. Terry, whenever you have an opportunity, if you don't mind dropping that website throughout this meeting in there, just so people have direct access to it, that would be awesome.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Huh?
Also, before I turn it over to our host, Julie, make sure that you got lunch from Wendy's House of Soul. Make sure that you pick up your lunch right after this. It's great. I am having a soul roll myself today. I enjoy the nanny one, so check out that one. That's one of my favorite ones. But without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our host. Julie is our event coordinator for our BTAB program. So she's our project manager. She's going to be our host today for our luncheon and our future luncheons as well. So without any further ado, Julia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jamar. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it took a lot for us to commit and take time out of our day to receive this great information that we're going to receive from Bossman, Qais, and Lindsey Queen on grant writing. Jamar and Terry pretty much touched all the bases of the new things that we have coming up between West Broadway Business and Area Coalition and Neon. So we really do hope that from here, you guys feel comfortable enough to reach out to us about your business ventures. What I would like to do just to get us started is just briefly let Bossman, Qais, and Lindsey introduce themselves. So Lindsey, if you don't mind, we'll just start with you. If you could just give us a brief synopsis of who you are and what you do, and we'll let Bossman, Qais introduce himself, and we'll get on with the presentation because time is very valuable for these people, I'm sure. So go ahead, Lindsey.
Absolutely. My name is Lindsey Queen. Hi, everyone. It is so wonderful to be with you today and to be able to share my experience in grant writing. I work for John Thomas Consulting. The West Broadway Business and Area Coalition is my favorite client, and I've been with them for about a year and a half now. So it's been a terrific time. And then I guess I will share, John Thomas Consulting is an international nonprofit management firm. So we help primarily nonprofits, but we also assist for-profit organizations in fundraising. So I'm the manager of government affairs and development. So I fuse those two together to bring in funding for important causes.
Go ahead, Bossman.
Hey y'all, my name is Bossman Qais. I am a small business owner in and from the Northside community. I was born and raised in Upper Willard Hay, so I am very familiar with Neon and the West Broadway Area Coalition, just being an engaged community member. I'm really excited to share with you guys a little bit more about what I do personally and the mission and work of my organization through grant writing.
Okay, thank you. So what I want to let you guys let everyone aware of is that both of these presenters also do have some slides. So if you want to get your pen and paper together, you're definitely more than welcome to take notes. And then we will also get a hard copy to be able to send to anyone that's interested in receiving a hard copy of their presentation. So with that being said, Bossman, Qais, you want to go ahead and lead us into the experience and letting us know about your experience with grant writing and securing funds for the Black Army Brigade?
Yeah, for sure. So
Thanks.
my name, as I said, my name is Bossman Qais. I founded a cultural development organization named Black Army Brigade. And today I'm gonna share with you my experience coming to this kind of skill, coming into this skill of grant writing. I have a very non-traditional journey. I have no formal training around grant writing. I developed a small business model that needed funding to be able to support its initiatives. So I started sitting in on different grant panels, just like this. I've been to a couple of West Broadway, so it's kind of like a 360 in return, how I have been fed in by participating in similar programs like such. And then, coming back now, being able to talk about, how I've implemented some of those lessons into tangible results. So to give you guys a little bit about my organization, we are a small cultural organization that's rooted in community. We provide culturally responsive access to different civic education programs that develop individual leadership qualities and skills for foundational Black American youth, ages 18 to 30. And we do so through our 3-pillar programs: the Bridging Intergenerational Gaps in Leadership series, the Fellowship for Freedom Fighters, and the Immersive Violence Prevention Training. Now, each of these kind of build upon one another. And, I've approached grant writing in my experience kind of through this network-based approach, where I kind of really believe wholeheartedly that your network is your net worth. And it is important to understand what the ecosystem is of key players that can help you expand on your network's initiatives through genuine relational support. So who is invested in your work and its service delivery? And who do they know? What do they know? For example, like when funding opportunities are coming up, it's been extremely important to kind of know where these dollars are coming and going, right? And by extension of your network, you do have the potential to kind of understand these flows, right, of funding. And if they have been awarded in the past, they might know some more intimate information about like why your initiative will be perfect match for this funding opportunity. And another thing that's extremely important in my journey is this relationship with a fiscal sponsor. I'm gonna show you 2 ways in which the fiscal sponsorship works, right? And how I've experienced it. It does take some research, and in that research, you might identify some things, some different grant opportunities or contract opportunities. And I'll get into that a little bit later in the slides. Usually the donor has a pot of money, or you might be bringing a new idea to the donor or grantor in general, where you might identify a space where there's an opportunity that's relevant to the types of, work and projects that they have previously and historically supported. And you might come up with a new project that might create new territory, right, in a service space. And that might be your niche on, why this grantor or donor should be supporting your work. But say you're like me and you have a LLC in your organization structure. For a lot of these opportunities, if I was to apply just as a small business, would not be eligible for that funding opportunity. So I've had to go through my fiscal sponsor, who is very, very great, Juxtaposition Arts. And I've also developed that relationship by being an apprentice in their programming, developing a product, which is the Black Army Brigade, while under their supervision and apprenticeship, right? And then really leaning in developing those relationships in that network that built a sense of trust in clarity on what my organization's missions, values, and work would be. So they were willing to provide a letter of fiscal support. So generally, once you solicit the funds from the fiscal or from the donor, they will create a grant or a contract that would need to be placed or housed at a sponsored entity. A sponsored entity can be like Propel nonprofits. If you have a personal relationship with the 501c3 status entity, they are also able to provide this sponsorship. And what the sponsorship really means is that they are going to be the contract holders for this funding, meaning they are going to hold the funds. You're going to create the project, and you're going to also be responsible for executing the project. And all they're doing is really holding the funds in good faith with the donor, because they have a relationship with you, right? And the donor might have a relationship with that fiscal sponsor, so they are, trusting that sponsor to make sure that they're being great stewards of that funding. There's basically like 4 different grant types. There are general operating grants. Well, there's 2. There's unrestricted and restricted grants, but I'll show you through 4 different grant types. In general operating grants, they are, sorry, got to get my slides together. So in general operating grants, they're usually used in an unrestricted manner. Unrestricted means they are able to be responsive to whatever the organization's need is of the moment. A restricted grant is generally for a particular purpose, and there's like these change report submissions that go into, like, if say something changes in the project's delivery. And for example, say you put up for a project and you are able to satisfy things underneath the budget. Sometimes donors want you to note what that change in funding purpose would be. So how are you repurposing that funding? They might ask you to submit a change report that just details how that funding is going to be repurposed for whatever the new need is that your organization is responding to. Whereas a general operating support grant might allow you to do that as is without, much documented, or you should document everything. Let me say that, document everything. But without those red tapes, and that's kind of symbolic of why I put the restricted red and the unrestricted green. You also have capital support. Capital support generally refers to infrastructure, right? I'm not too versed in capital support, so hopefully Lindsey can, but I will be pretty soon as we, continue to scale up. But hopefully our next guest can talk a little bit more about it. I'm not even gonna, fake the funk, but I do know about fellowships and individual awards also, right? Fellowships and individual awards are opportunities that kind of require you to kind of think big about the work that you've done, why it matters, and what more can you do to have a greater impact if you are, supported as an individual, right? Some local recognized fellowships are like the Bush Leadership. I know that McKnight does a bunch of artist support fellowships. Headwaters has a variety, and these are foundations that I'm referring to. So Bush Foundation, McKnight Foundation, Headwaters Foundation. They have a variety of different fellowships. I know that there is like the Nexus board, and then there's fellowships that might, you know, be relevant to a specific skill development that you're looking to acquire. So like for Nexus Community Partners, they have a Boards and Commissions Leadership Institute. And there is a, if I'm not mistaken, there is a small stipend that is attached with that fellowship as well. And then there's like the Lobes, the Humphreys, but I think Humphreys cost. But there's, you know, different types of individual awards and fellowship experiences that also can support your individual entrepreneurial leadership development, right? And this is just another model that I put to kind of demonstrate, you know, how the fiscal sponsor and the project relationship works with the funding source. So you generally, private foundation, government agencies, individual or corporate donors will have a funding opportunity. That sponsor will say, hey, I trust this individual to give me timely reports. They will, you know, write up what the project description is, and we are going to hold that money and administer it as needed. So inside of that proposal, what's been most common components to me has been, what is my organization's mission and work history? What do we do, right? Then, you know, what is the program description? What part of this program are we needing funding for? There's a term that I'm getting familiar with called patch funding, right? Where I'm a lot of thinking goes around like getting all of my funding from one source. And now I'm kind of getting into this evolved, you know, understanding of how this organization might, you know, focus on providing youth development support. And this organization might be interested in research and evaluation studies. So I might, you know, talk about what this part of this budget will cover for this grant. So I'm making this specific application for that grant, describing this part of the overall project. And then this part might, you know, be dedicated to this funding bucket is something that, you know, Bush Foundation supports traditionally. So we might write a proposal into them for this specific funding need of ours. So let me back up. Sorry about that. Traditionally, these are like 4 components: your organization's mission and history, the program or project description that's needing funding, who is it going to impact, and a descriptive budget, because that really tells the funders what the real story of the proposal is, and how the money is going to be used generally tracks what the project is about, right? So making sure that all of that is in line together really does your organization's grant and funding efforts a huge service. So general operations grants might ask you for a description of the work, and depending on the grant or the contract you're bidding for, all of some of these might apply. But also don't tell them what you think that they want to hear. Tell them the truth about what the work is that you're going to do, right? My mentor, Deanna, told me that you kind of want to paint a picture of what you want to do, when you're going to do it, who will be involved, and why will it make the world better. We don't gotta be super fancy with our words. We want to be really simple and clear. We want to allow plenty of time to write. So, you know, do your research ahead of time to understand where these grant opportunities are. In those relationships, have intentional dialogue with folks about what opportunities are coming up, and also plan beyond the proposal or the project. So you might, want to see, as I brought up the example before, which parts of the budget might be relevant to a particular funder. Why? And, make an application specifically for that. That's how you could break down some of, the cost and spread the expense around, right? And this is just some of the work that I've done. We were featured in the New York Times in their coverage of Black Visions Collective in this square. So if you saw that issue, you'll recognize, our outfits and silhouettes. This is a project that I had received some grant funding for. We did a collaborative with Juxtaposition Arts. So if you notice, I kind of try to return the investments from that I received from the community back into the community. We were able to host a movie night in their newly developed skate square. So if you want to learn more about grant writing, you got to do the research, volunteer or apply to serve on grant review panels, read examples of similar awarded and declined proposals, and call and meet with the funders. Also, do the research. That's it for me. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, or any of that, please feel free to engage. I will make this available for access. I'll send this over to Julie, and she'll get it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bossman Qais. Lindsey, do you want to add on a little more technicality towards this, being that you're definitely, like you said, you're lobbying and things for the funds and things. Could you just share with us your experience with grant writing and how to obtain grants or how to build those relationships?
Sure. Let me get my screen where it needs to be before I jump too far. Well, I would like to second what Qais said. You don't have to have formal training in grant writing. It's so important that, it's increasingly important to funders that funding is made more accessible. So we're actually seeing a lot less hoops to jump through, which is great news for businesses and organizations. But yeah, I think I'm ready to share my screen now.
And I just want to acknowledge right quick, we do see questions in the chat that we will get to. Thank you for those questions.
Yes, I look forward to all the questions. So I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible because it can get lengthy. But yeah, so my discussion items for today, I'd love to share what I've witnessed in the last year and a half, the shift in grant funding for nonprofits and small businesses since 2020. I also would love to present a new funding opportunity that was just introduced last year, and it's for federal community project funding. It's a $1.2 trillion opportunity for communities and organizations. Also, current local grant opportunities available, and how to make your application competitive and compelling in my experience. So yeah, and just to give you guys a quick note, there's links all over this PowerPoint that I would love for you guys to have. I'll send it out to everyone. And so there's all kinds of links to different grant pages and different applications and things like that. So anyways, we'll get started. The arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic and eruption of social unrest in the Twin Cities has presented communities and businesses, especially small businesses, unprecedented challenges. In order to understand what recovery options are available for businesses and communities, it's important to understand the impact of what is now universally known as the COVID-19 recession. So I hope you can see this. It looks a little boring, but this is actually a guide for the employment loss in the last 3 recessions by industry in the state of Minnesota. And this was provided by Deed. I marked off, if you can see this, there's in red is the 2020 recession. In blue is the Great Recession back in 2008, and in green is the 2001 recession. And there's a link to this page at the bottom of this slide. So I actually mapped off a couple of these that I think are pertinent to this audience today. As you can see, retail and trade, this was a huge disparity that we've witnessed. There was over almost 20% drop in jobs compared to back in, and we thought 2008 and 2001 was rough, but this really gives us a picture of how truly extensive the impact of COVID was. Another one I wanted to show was the accommodation and food services. This is incredible to see. I mean, almost a 60% drop in jobs. And then you're looking at what that's compared to the last two other recessions is mind-blowing. And then of course we have arts, entertainment, and recreation, which was the largest disparity that we've identified, over 60%. And then here is an interesting, this is the only place where there was gain in the last two recessions, which was healthcare and social assistance in the last two recessions prior to COVID. And here we are at almost a 10% drop in total jobs lost. When you see this kind of data, this can show really how the prioritization is going to go for our governments, whether it's on the local level, the state level, and the federal level. But yeah, as we dissect the net job change for industries that suffered the most, as we can see, is the accommodation and food services, retail, trade, healthcare, social assistance, and other services. The total documented, so there's probably many more, but documented number of businesses that closed in Minnesota is 10,492. Of which 3,792 or 36% of those businesses that closed have still not reopened. That's significant. The importance of this data is that it directly reflects, as I said, what that public funding, those government opportunities that might become available in response to help businesses recover. It's also a good indicator of how private dollars would be prioritized in the philanthropic world. So with net job change, this is what has occurred in public funding since 2020. So public funding in response to COVID, the state of Minnesota received $8.5 billion contributing to local fiscal recovery and state fiscal recovery, as well as federal programs. On the local level, this is from DEED's website. Hennepin County and the city of Minneapolis cumulatively received roughly $2.1 billion. And if I actually, so this will show you, if you click on these guys, and I don't mean to like distract us from this presentation, but it can take you to all kinds of different information. So just wanted to make sure we had that. But yeah, so this is, you can click on these links here for the city and county, and it will show you the COVID and the CARES Act funding and how that's been trickling down. And I will make a note that as you can see, state funding, 2.83 billion was designated for long-term pandemic recovery and revenue replacement. That is key for business owners. And also, as you can see, there are still funds that are going to be distributed for this year to 2023, and funds actually will still be moving and shifting all the way up to December of 2025. So we might be seeing a lot of programming right now, but we're going to actually continue to see that programming. And it's not, in my mind, it's not particularly locked into one program. I think it's going to be shifting as we grow and as we recover, and it'll be prioritized accordingly. So on the federal level, 3.5 billion in program-specific federal funds, which you can access through the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development. So I'll show you guys that page really quick, or not. And then let's see. And then of course we have the SBA. So the Small Business Administration, it's a wonderful major player in assisting small businesses through loans, investment capital, and various funding programs. My key tip here If you're an organization, a small business owner, and you're looking to obtain funding through any of these recovery efforts, definitely, subscribe to those local newsletters. You definitely want to be informed from the county level, municipality level, state level. Go to the Deed Economic Development page, and it'll be a really good use of your time. And then there's the net job change and how it's impacted private funding. So in my line of work, it has absolutely been unique to see our philanthropic partners step up in a major way to assist communities and causes impacted from COVID, but also social unrest. Many private donors and foundations reprioritized their funding objectives in 2020. Even if they established their strategy plans, a lot of them actually went back to the drawing board, and they focused on COVID-19 recovery and also BIPOC small businesses, financial equity. That's a really big, very, very big topic, and it's going to continue to grow. And also causes generally umbrellaed by current social and racial disparities and injustices. That is a field of work that I work in a lot when it comes to applying for different grant dollars for the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition. When the legislative process took too long, because it takes a long time, it was private funding that kicked in first to help our small businesses and communities. So today, Minneapolis-based small business owners and entrepreneurs and artists have continuous access to grants and business support programs through various community organizations. So I'm hoping that this presentation today will start that education that everyone needs to know, okay, what's the resource that I can use to access this? Because the opportunity is there. Some of those great organizations to reach out to is NEON, also the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition, Twin Cities United Way, Metropolitan Economic Development Association, Lake Street Council, Minneapolis Regional Chamber, and there's so many more. The city of Minneapolis is rich in wonderful organizations to assist businesses. The next topic, and I will try to keep this brief, is the federal community project funding, the $1.2 trillion opportunity. So these are also earmarks. They're now rebranded as community project funding requests, or CPFs. On the Senate side, they're called congressional directed spending requests because the House and Senate like to separate themselves. These allow members of Congress to steer federal spending to benefit specific projects or entities within the annual appropriations process. So CPFs or CDS must not exceed 1% of the total discretionary spending, which goes into, close to over $1 trillion, a lot of money. Members in the House, this is from last year, but members from the House get to pick 15 projects. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in the district for North Minneapolis area, her deadline today is the end of the day today. So I'll be submitting to that for WBC. Also, Senate requests. The project limit is, to me, in my mind, it's actually not based by a number at all, but rather by seniority. And then at a total current structure of how the appropriations process works for earmarks, there's at least 3 request opportunities available for any organization that is looking to improve their community or advance their programming. This is eligible applicants for this. They do have to be nonprofits. You can even do partnerships with contractors. So if there are businesses underneath that can help complete the project, that is absolutely something that is possible. But it doesn't exclude, it is flexible. As far as project guidelines go, let's see, the elements that make up a competitive project request are, it's got to be shovel ready. So you have to, if an organization owns the land and they're ready to do the construction, then that can be where capital improvements might come into play. Projects have to be completed within 1 year. So the fiscal year, which is October 1st, 2022 to September 30th, 2023. That's the fiscal year of the federal government. That does shift. It does get extended and it does get pushed back. Also, strong community support is key. So letters of support are absolutely essential. Project partnerships, as I mentioned earlier, Any partners that you come in and can, commit to a project, that's always going to create a really strong foundation for a proposal. A detailed budget breakout. Bossman Qais mentioned this. That is one of the most important elements of an application or grant application. You have to know what you're going to do with the money. So also strong justification narrative, and we'll get into more of that later. And then of course, effective advocacy. Really, when it comes to earmarks, the biggest advocating that you can do for your project are your letters of request. So yeah. Frequently asked questions. How much is the average earmark request? Requests are typically 6 figures and go all the way. I've seen them actually not 1 million, but I've seen them go to $2.4 million. So if you put in a request for $125,000 for BIPOC business technical assistance, that's actually a pretty low ask. How do we select the appropriate legislative champion? Well, that's a trick question because usually that politician is going to pick you. You don't get to do the picking. Let's see. And then how time consuming is this work? Believe it or not, if you're organized, it does not take that much of your time. It's just coordinating letters of support. It's understanding, it's being able to articulate your project. But typically these applications are 1,000 words. So it can be, it's a very big ask and it's a low, like not too many hoops to jump through, which is scary, but also good. It's improving access. And then there's another question, should the project be completed? Does it have to be completed within the fiscal year of 2023? Yes. Do programmatic requests result with RFPs? So there are also programmatic requests that you can submit, and even earmarks, that funding does not fall into an RFP. If it's an earmark, that is an actual direct deposit into your account, one lump sum. When it comes to programmatic requests, however, earmarks, they might form into an RFP, but it would actually be, that program, those program dollars on the federal level would already be earmarked to your project. So no, the answer is no. So yeah, I'm happy to answer more questions offline. If anyone has it, I'll include my contact information. So as far as current local small business grant opportunities, this is the really interesting part, I think, of my presentation. There's a lot. And I won't talk too much because there's a lot, but just remember, guys, this is all going to be furnished to you. There's the Hennepin County Small Business Relief Fund. And don't forget, these are hyperlinks, so you can click on these. It'll take you to the page, it'll take you to the application, all of that great stuff. But as of March 15th, 2021, Hennepin County has provided more than 6,500 small business relief grants totaling almost $70 million. 45 million came from the CARES Act, 25 million came from the state. It's great to see that more than 40% of all Hennepin County small business grants were provided to BIPOC business owners. As we all know, financial equity is a huge barrier that has got to change. So it's good to see that this alternative financing opportunity was available. Note, the county, this is not available now. However, the county board took action in March, so last month, to use the dollars from the American Rescue Plan for government services. So they are shifting their funds so they can free up funding, which to me, this is indicative of upcoming small business support grants. So keep your eyes peeled. It's another great place to subscribe is the Hennepin County Small Business Relief Fund. The next one is DEED. That's from DEED. It's the Emerging Entrepreneur Loan Program, or ELP. This program provides loan capital for businesses that are owned and operated by minorities, low-income persons, women, veterans, and/or persons with disabilities. I love this program. It's absolutely needed, and I definitely think that it's worthy of looking into. The businesses, they have to apply directly through a certified Minnesota ELP lender. That's really important. And in fact, it might seem like a hoop to jump through. To me, it's more of a safeguard because there's a lot of sketchy things that happen when it comes to, lenders. And this lender would have to be approved by this program. So this is actually a great safety net for you. This program will finance startup and expansion costs, so that's wonderful. It will also afford machinery and equipment, inventory and receivables, working capital, new construction, renovation, and site acquisition. The city of Minneapolis also has, I think many of us know, the Business Development Fund. This is a financial tool provided to Minneapolis-based businesses for assistance and redevelopment projects that have a potential for the creation of jobs that will be filled by Minneapolis residents. The BDF provides Minneapolis business loans of up to $75,000 and the opportunity for prepayment credits, which is really an eye-catching term for me, to be earned for each Minneapolis resident hired. So this does require a job linkage agreement, but from what I was reading, if you hired one person who lived locally, that credit would be, I think, $35,000 in prepayment credit. So that's half of that loan, which is really good. Businesses located within the city of Minneapolis or moving into Minneapolis may apply. BDF loans are targeted at companies that will provide full-time jobs that pay a minimum of $14.72 per hour. So this funding can be used for inventory, production equipment, acquisition of business assets, move-in costs, leasehold improvements, real estate, or building expansion. It's a good recruitment tool. Another one is the Great Streets by the city of Minneapolis. There are different elements within the Great Streets program, and they are the business district support grants, facade improvements matching grants, and real estate development gap financing loans. I'll tell you about the second two here. So this is also, don't forget, hyperlink. This helps revitalize and sustain the economic vitality of the city's commercial districts through public and private investment. Application is rolling, so you can apply today if you'd like. The real estate development gap financing loans, those are for transformative commercial real estate redevelopment projects where acquisitions located in the Great Streets eligible areas. North Minneapolis and the West Broadway corridor are absolutely in there. And this is also rolling. So yeah, you could apply today for that if that fits your need. And I'm almost done. City of Minneapolis, our alternative financing. This program provides small Minneapolis businesses, your neighborhood retail, service, or light manufacturing. A lot of people here today, and alternative financing to interest-based system that is in accordance with Islamic law or Sharia. No religious requirement. The program provides financing to purchase equipment and or make building improvements. A private lender provides half the financing at their rate of return, and the city will provide the rest up to $50,000 at a 2% rate of return. And that term of that financing could be 10 years. So that's pretty competitive right there. Eligibility, all of businesses in the city of Minneapolis. Eligible uses, you name it, it's there. It's very inclusive on all kinds of property improvements, repairs, anything like that. So yeah, don't forget to click on that if you have more questions about it. Okay, I think this is my last small business grant. City of Minneapolis Brownfield Development Grant. This is more for developers, but the next Brownfield grant round deadline is coming up. It's May 2nd, 2022. DEED typically makes about $4 million in Brownfield grant funding available per round. The Metropolitan Council usually awards about $2.5 million per round, and Hennepin County typically awards between $1 million and $1.5 million. So there's a lot of money going into this. I've advocated for brownfields, for brownfield remediation and cleanup. So this kind of gets me excited when I see this. Grant applications for environmental remediation projects are periodically offered by DEED, the Metropolitan Council in Hennepin County. The city will work with potential applicants to review proposed projects and submit to grantors and applications. So any developer that might want to turn an old gas station or a surface lot or a former manufacturing facility, you name it, anything that might have some sort of seeping chemicals into the earth, those are all going to be eligible for developers to seek supplemental funding for brownfield development grants. It's a great way to clean up clean up the community and incentivize this investment. Okay, my last section, this is the easy part. So how to make a grant application competitive and compelling. I won't spend too much time on this because Bossman Qais did a good job. So my 8 points, like Qais said, do your research, only apply for grants that are a good fit in terms of focus and size. Make sure you meet the criteria prior to applying. This will save you a lot of time. If you are unsure, contact the program officer and ask for clarification. That's always a good idea. It's also a great way to introduce yourself to a potential grantor because that, those introductions, putting a face to an application is absolutely key. Avoid mission creep. Don't start a program outside of your organization's mission or expertise in order to be eligible for new funding sources. Your reputation, your track record is really going to be what gets you into the door when it comes to funders. So staying true to your mission is going to be key. But we all know sometimes those shift when the world changes. Consider the goals of the foundation. So you have to know your audience essentially. When deciding if you can submit a competitive application, some funders prefer to fund small grants that serve an immediate need. Others prefer to fund part of a long-term strategy, which is a systemic impact. Make sure that your request is a good fit. Build a relationship. We already mentioned this earlier, but putting a face to an application is more important than you might think. Funders often look for competent, confident, and energized applicants. Bonus points always go to the applicants who demonstrate a personal connection to the mission. Write with clarity. This is so important. And have well-defined activities and outcomes. Don't jumble a bunch of activities together. Rather, make sure that they are cohesive and fit together naturally. Organize your thoughts and writing so that your application can be easily understood by someone unfamiliar with your program. Emphasize research and evaluation if that's part of what you need to be doing. Foundations want to know they're making a good investment and look more favorably upon applicants that are based on research tested assumptions or include a valuable evaluation methodology. So for small businesses here, if you're applying for a grant and if you take data from the first slide that I showed from DEED, talking to that data could really boost your application because you're tangibly connecting yourself to data.
Mhm.
And then demonstrate sustainability, be a good community partner, follow directions. And I think that is it.
Okay, thank you, Lindsey, and thank you, Bossman Qais. We definitely enjoyed the plethora of information that you guys had given us. We are going to take some time to do some Q&A, but one thing I would like to just mention to everyone, just because it's something that was really important for me to understand in my grant seeking journey, just to share my own experience, is when Bossman Qais is talking about the fiscal agency, for a lot of us small business owners who are trying to get our way or who are maybe applying for those bigger pots, that's when, like the organizations that Lindsey is talking about with those bigger pots, where we need to form that relationship with maybe those bigger agencies for them to be able to bring us aboard. But as Bossman Qais and Lindsey both mentioned, they definitely have to believe in your mission, believe in what you're doing, and believe in your integrity. So when we say that your reputation precedes you, this is definitely one of those situations. And that is in that fiscal agency is something that gets a lot of us small business owners confused, but it's one of those steps that can help us get into the big arena to expand. So maybe instead of us just being this small one-person salon like myself, it can help me secure those funds to be a Great Clips or a Fantastic Sam's, because it helps to put more bang behind my back. And it's letting them know that someone else who has just as much to lose financially as they do has my back and believes in me. So it makes them think, okay, yeah, she might be worth that try. And let's go ahead and start looking into this application and see if she's talking the talk, walking the walk. and what has been her experience that she has put out thus far. So that's just something that I wanted everybody to understand, because I know that for me initially, fiscal agency was just kind of like, huh, what? You know, where I didn't know that it was something that could be obtained with me being on this level and me thinking that these other businesses was on a higher level, when in actuality, we all have potential to get there. So I do see that in the chat that we do have some questions. And I know that one of the questions, for instance, that Tiana had asked was, and Lindsey, Bossman, Qais, you guys can both speak to this. I know that she asked if a small startup business qualifies for grants. Bossman, Qais, or Lindsey, did either one of you guys want to take that question?
So one thing I'd like to add in all of the research I was doing yesterday and today when it comes to small business granting, it can be, grants for small businesses are actually pretty rare to find. It's almost, even Deed on their website, they kind of joke about it, that it doesn't really exist. When you look at what Bossman Qais is showing, the Model C format of how development might work and fundraising might work for a business, it's like almost applying for a BTAP, assistance to help develop your business, which Jamar is very knowledgeable about, and he can expand on this. But WBC would essentially be that fiscal agent, which would be taking funds from LISC and filtering that into other businesses individually through programming. That's one way that a startup can find some eligible funding. Also, I did show there was there's a couple of funding opportunities that are in my PowerPoint, and I just shared the link. But those are actually eligible for expanding and starting up businesses. So definitely explore that.
I would only add that it's true. There is no money out here to really start up a small business, right? Like, there isn't a grant that is available for you to just say, hey, I want this money to make this idea operational, right? Well, in a sense, right? Because I would challenge that by saying, but if your service or product, if you are knowledgeable about it, you understand it, and are able to sell it in a way that says, hey, this is who we are, this is our mission, this is what we do, this is one of the newly developed initiatives that we want to do, and this is where we are needing financial support in order to initiate or engage in this way, and to produce these deliverables, right? Because then that's where it becomes really about what are you delivering, and what is that relationship back to the fiscal sponsor and to the donor themselves, right? Does it make sense for, I don't know, does it make sense for West Broadway, or not West Broadway, but a Neon to repurpose or redirect these, like into not an intermissionary, but like a intermediary? Is it relevant? Is it relevant to the scope of work that they traditionally do, right? Is it a small business that is seeking this type of fiscal sponsorship, or is it a nonprofit where they might need to go over to META, right? So understanding understanding your services and how to sell it.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have was that, excuse me. Hold on, let me grab this one really quick. Okay, someone else was asking, if you are a for-profit business, do you qualify for grants? Now, we do understand from you two that small businesses aren't traditionally not funded, and we have seen that in this pandemic relief that they wanted you to have X amount of employees, which a lot of times we were mom and pop shops. But this attendee's question was that if you are a for-profit and not a nonprofit, is there grant opportunities out that? But I'd like to also ask, because we also have seen during this pandemic relief funding that a lot of grants were not for nonprofits. They weren't for small businesses that only had one employee, and the nonprofit arena was getting cut out. So Bossman, Qais, I know that's how you got your fiscal agency going on, but Lindsey, could you share with us kind of what you've been seeing and what might be the ropes on that part?
Well, I think we have to really define what the word grant really means for a business, for a for-profit. If you're in social services or human services or education, you know, there can be absolutely grant opportunities for community engagement. Terry shared a really great opportunity. I haven't clicked on it yet, but there is, let's see, the Main Street Economic Revitalization Grant. So that could be open for, I haven't read into it yet, but that could be something that for-profit businesses are eligible for. But really what you have to look at when it comes to granting, or I will say leveraging what you have to help your business succeed. And that would be for those really competitive alternative financing opportunities that are offered. In a way, it is almost like a portion of those funds are granted because the interest rates are so low and they prioritize minorities and small business owners. So yeah, it's a loaded question, Julie.
Yeah, I know. And that's the crazy thing about it. And that's why when you guys were both talking about that fiscal agency, that knowing your audience and being able to overstand your product and be able to sell it, because if you can convince them that it's worth it, then there's really ways around. You know, a lot of times they'll be like, well, you know what, the grant is for this, but there is a way that this falls into that. So it's definitely about relationships and stuff.
Network is your net worth.
Yes, it is. We also had a question, you guys, and sorry for the loaded one, but just saying that's how it comes to us in this everyday grind of us looking for this funding, being small business owners. Someone else wanted to know if you guys might have any information on how to find or how to join a grant review panel.
Yeah, that, you know, I just said it, your network is your network. Sometimes it might be someone you know who might know of opportunities to join a grant panel, and it, you know, takes a conversation. I'm talking, you know, from my experience, the non-traditional pathway, right? And, you know, from that relationship, that genuine relationship, they're like, hey, you know, I know that this grant panel is coming up, and they're seeking it. Also, if you look on the grants themselves, sometimes they might say, you know, we are looking for grant reviewers, right? And that's a way to instantly have access to a same or similar grant that you might find interest in. And those are like two simple ways that I could think of right off.
Okay. Terry, by any chance with Neon, I know at one point Neon was giving away grants in Jamar with the WBC also being a grant giver. Do you guys have any insight on how someone could join a grant review panel? And with this question, I'm not sure if they're meaning being a participant helping to review grants, or if they're saying if they can take their written grant and take it someplace to be reviewed before they submit it. So could you two maybe hit on both if you have any information on where they might be able to find that? And you too, Lindsey, if you might know. Go ahead, Terry.
I think that's a great question. I know here at Neon, when it pertains to business loans and potentially other resources like grants, we do have business development people that will sit with you and walk that through with you. So I would suggest anyone that has a small business or thinking about a business before they decide to submit those grants, or if they're in the process of doing it, it wouldn't be a bad idea to stop through Neon and meet with one of our business development people to go through that process with you, because there may be some gaps in there that you just may need another eyes to kind of massage it a little bit for you as well, and just make sure all the I's and T's are crossed. So I would suggest that if you have any questions, please reach out, and the more information that you know, the better opportunities may come your way. So yes.
Jamar, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I was just going to speak from the other point of view, in case you are looking for like to join a panel or who reviews these applications. I know that WBC is currently putting together a review committee, and those members are going to be suggested to be board members. Even funders may serve on those committees, as well as like employees or even community members that might be familiar with that process of grant writing. So you can get a really great panel together to review those applications and just make sure that they're going to be committed and thorough about going through them. So then you get the best feedback, because there'll be an opportunity for those to ask why they did not receive the grants. And if you have like really detailed notes, and you can really expand upon those opportunities so they can improve upon the next time. But yes, so again, as community members, board members, employees, even funders can serve on those review committees.
Okay. Lindsey, anything you want to add to it?
I guess my only thing is just make sure you're passionate about whatever kind of grant you're reviewing, because it does take a lot of time and commitment, and a lot of times it's for free. It's volunteered hours. So just make sure you're passionate about it and you're going to take it seriously, because like Jamar said, you will have to probably come up with a good justification for your decision. But I think that's it.
Okay. And then just wrapping up, just want to know if there's any more questions that anyone would like to ask the panelists, Bossman, Qais, Lindsey, Queen, or ask Jamar from West Broadway Business Coalition, or Terry Austin. If so, you can type or raise your hand so we can see it.
Also, while you are thinking about those,
Yvonne.
Hold on one second. I
No, I was
see
gonna
Miss
say-
Yvonne Moore has raised her hand.
go ahead.
Want to go ahead and unmute and ask? Miss Yvonne Moore? You're still on mute, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
May I suggest that Neon in the next few months has, excuse me, some meetings, very short, to help and assist anybody who has questions. That was my
Okay.
only comment.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am, and we definitely appreciate your comment. So with us wrapping up, we have 12 minutes after 1. We are scheduled to be on until 12:15. I would like to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to attend this Northside Business Luncheon. Our next one will be the 3rd Thursday in May, and that one would be on the events that's happening on West Broadway, where we'll have the different panelists here that puts on the different events on West Broadway, like Flow, Black Business Week that we'll have around Juneteenth. And then also to remind everyone to go ahead and pick up their lunch if they have not. Just wondering and curious, has anyone already went to pick up their lunch this morning prior to? Okay, JP, how was your lunch?
I'm actually at the restaurant. It was delicious. Thank you.
I said a lot of people was probably gonna sit in and just go ahead and tune in and eat their lunch. Well, great. Glad
Yes,
you enjoyed
Thank
your lunch.
you. Thank you
And
so much.
hopefully you'll be joining us next week. So without any
survey.
further ado, Jamar or Terry, is there anything you guys would like to say in closing?
No, just mention the survey that we have in there. If you want to just mention that.
Okay, definitely. As you guys might be able to see, hopefully, maybe about 2 minutes ago, Julia sent everyone in their inbox a link for our survey. What we're hoping is that you guys would go ahead, take the time and fill that out just to give us feedback about the presentation. And just give us an evaluation so that we can make each event better and stronger and know how you guys are feeling about it. Because after all, we're doing this to make sure that our community members are feeling confident in their stride for building their entrepreneurial pathways.
One last thing I just want to add really quick. It's so imperative, it's so much information, so many funding resources in our community. You have to reach back and find experts that can help you navigate through some of these hurdles and barriers that we may see. We can't do it alone. There's plenty of resources here. So just please reach back to your community and folks and partners and get the information that'll be relevant to your business.
I second what Terry says, if you don't mind. My whole job is based on exactly this service. So are so many community organizations. They are based on this kind of technical assistance. And that is a great, that points to it, you're not in this alone. You have people at you have resources available to you. So please, like WBC is a great resource as well to reach out and get that technical assistance. And we encourage you to, because we want to see you all succeed.
I would
Thank you,
only
Lindsey.
add either mentor someone or or find someone to mentor yourself as well in this journey. Just adding in, doubling down on what Terry said. It's about the intergenerational collaboration.
Thank you, you guys. And I might have misspoken. I might have said Julia emailed you the survey. And if that's what I said, I apologize. That was a proverbial slip. It's actually in your chat right here in this Zoom chat room. So if you guys could just take a couple seconds and go click on, you would have gotten it, or maybe around about 1:12 p.m. if you want to go back on your timestamps. And it should be a chat message from us inviting you to fill out our survey.
I also just reposted it, so it's the very last chat.
Thank you, Bossman.
Well, it's 15 minutes past. Peace, love, justice, and power to the people. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.